So today let's talk about why you might want to let your ego die. Well, at least parts of it. Hi there, I'm Anne-Katrin and I'm occasionally awake. I'm here to help you inspire your awakenings, heal yourself and reawaken your life. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the great potential of ego deaths, what they actually are, and how to use their momentum for massive growth and transformation. So first things first, what's an ego death to begin with? So quick recap, our ego is our identity configuration, meaning all our preferences, our likes and dislikes, our interests and values and goals and patterns, everything that makes up who we are, how we identify. Who we know ourselves to be is essentially our self-concept. Our ego combines conscious logic, so understanding a correlation, for example, between a hobby or an interest and the expansive feeling that gives us, with subconscious logic. For example, on a conscious level, not seeing the connection between dislike X and a family rule or a belief we grew up with that causes us to uphold dislike X in order to maintain a level of safety, of worth, of attention. Our ego is like a big house with pillars and load-bearing walls, meaning you cannot simply tear a wall down and not expect the statics of the entire house to be affected. An ego death occurs when we knock down a wall anyway, sometimes at the risk of the entire house collapsing. Walls are knocked down either by inflicted circumstances of different severity, for example, breakups or job losses, that affect our identity as a whole, or at least one of the social roles we identify with. Or they can be knocked down as a prior conviction, belief, or any aspect of our self-concept is shaken to the core. In this video, I talk about the second type of ego death specifically. An ego death means burying parts of your identity and building new parts, building a new identity, often from scratch. That's a messy process that often includes going through a period of not knowing who you are anymore, which can be especially concerning after society has told you that you're supposed to have figured that out by 20 or something. It can include meeting people asking you, "So who are you? What do you do?" and wanting to run for dear life as a response. I'm so glad you're here right now. So if you enjoy this, please make sure to like and subscribe to become occasionally awake with me. An ego death usually comes as a wildfire to your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is the outer world 3D reflection of the comfortable and familiar roles you usually carry out in your everyday lives. Once one or even several of those roles collapse, part of our comfort zone goes down with it. You lose part of your sense of self. Suddenly, you start to question your life existence, basically. This practically means that you need to renegotiate the conditions for safe and purposeful conduct as it relates to the contexts that were previously narrated by the role or the roles that you lost. An ego death therefore destabilizes our identity and brings about that nagging question. What now? Where do I go from here? Can somebody please help me figure myself out? No, they can't. That's your job. It's back to square one. It's the navigation system with all previous destinations deleted, and you just don't know yet which new destination to type in. It's the white canvas in front of you, and you might feel scared to commit to one brush and one color to start with. An ego death asks us the question, so who do you want to be from here? The gift, you choose. The curse, you choose. It is your turn to reinvent yourself in a way that might feel daring, contradicting to who you've been before. It might be so very worth it. Why? An ego death is the prerequisite for an identity rebirth. Ego deaths often get us closer to the essence of ourselves that lies hidden beneath the conditioning, beneath the social norms, the cultural norms, beneath the standards and expectations of ourselves, of others, and it gets us back to who we truly are at our core. An ego death, therefore, often is an undoing of that which was added on top of the essence. As we came into culture, as we came into society, as we were conditioned to fill certain roles that we did not necessarily choose ourselves. Allow yourself to follow the breadcrumbs that your intuition, that your higher self have laid out for you all over the map. All over the map that starts beyond your previous comfort zone. That comfort zone might need to stretch, and it might scratch your ego just a little bit. And this is where awakenings come in. Ego deaths are usually prompted by awakenings to the ego self. So an awakening to the ego self is a sudden shift in perspective and in perception with the potential to have transformative consequences for our lives if we choose to integrate the contents, the information of the awakening experience itself into our lives beyond the moment in which the awakening occurs. What this essentially means is you have a new insight. You have a sudden epiphany about your life story, about your identity, about your self-concept that changes that self-concept. So whenever an awakening to the ego self is prompted, we reach a higher level of truth, of clarity, of connection to ourselves, to our essence. We start making more sense. We start to make sense beyond who we used to identify as. An ego awakening always comes with the invitation, hey, are you willing to take this snippet of information, this spark of clarity and truth into your 3D experience? Are you willing to integrate that new epiphany, that insight, that little golden spark into who you are and risk the consequence of the other parts of you assembling around that new spark in a new way? So essentially, the whole identity configuration is shifted, is changed by changing one part. The house is rebuilt. Rebuilding after an ego death means that identity shifting to some degree is a must. It's also literally just another word for the mechanism I already described, which is that a part or several parts die, they dissolve because they lose the original context of their logic in which they could exist. And they are overwritten by a new logic, by the new information granted to us in an epiphany, in an insight, in an awakening to the ego self. An ego death requires us to tune back into ourselves, to stop listening to the voice of culture, the voice of society, to the expectations of others, and come back to the sense of self that you feel within you. And really listen to that inner voice, listen to that intuition. And it's going to present itself sooner or later. And it's going to speak through the voice of creative impulses, prompting us to try something new, go in a new direction, do that thing you've never done before. And the rest of your ego might say, but we've never done that before. That doesn't make sense. It's nothing we do. I am not a person who. Please do not hold yourself hostage to who you used to be. If it's a creative impulse, it most likely indicates that it is part of a person, of what a person would do that you'd actually like to be. So whenever we hear, I'm not a person who, I'm not a person that would do that, you are invited to check in with your ego, because this might be your ego trying to re-stabilize itself. However, your intuition is always gonna say, and more importantly, feel like, oh, this is nice. Oh, I'm curious. I'm eager to try something new. I don't know what's gonna happen, but let's just find out. That's the voice of your intuition. And following that voice as consistently as you possibly can is the fastest way to get you out of an ego death and into the growth and blossoming of a beautiful new part of you that is going to enhance not only your identity, but as a reflection, also your 3D reality, your entire life experience. And change your story, your biography, your behavior, your thoughts, in ways that you could never have imagined had you only listened to your ego voice alone.